welcome to the Science and Education segment on Impact. I'm Barbara Brabetz. We are kicking off Women's History Month with women who are making history. And one of those here today with me is Maxine Brisport. Welcome to the show.
Hello, good morning.
So, Maxine, you were not born a woman, you were born a small girl. And then we all get to where we are some way. So where do you hail from? Where do you come from?
Well, I moved to the Capital District from New York City. I graduated from Fort Hamilton High School in New York City. Went to Baruch College as I did an undergrad major in industrial psychology, and went to Brooklyn College and did a master's and advanced certification in school psychology.
And did you apply for a job up here knowing that you wanted to move upstate, or was it just a crapshoot and you got the job?
No, what happened, I worked for a few years in New York City, and then I got married and I had my daughter, and I thought I wanted to live in what I considered a quieter type of community, less stress-free, less stressful than New York City, I should say. And I had relatives here. My brother lived in Schenectady County, so I thought, instead of moving where we don't know anyone, and I thought family is important and it would be good for my daughter, and now I eventually had 2 children, to grow up with cousins and so on.
That's great, because we will be talking more about family and what family can do to help foster the education of a child. But what do you do these days for the viewers?
What do I do apart from working full-time as a school psychologist?
Well, that's what it is.
Yes,
you work
yes.
as a school psychologist.
Right, and I do a lot of community service. I do mentoring with students within the City of Schenectady School District. I do what we call the Working Group and Girls, which is a group of women in Schenectady who has a great program. This is the 4th year, and I do a girls group every other Thursday at Martin Luther King School. I work with 8th grade girls. Yes.
So in your working life, what age group of students do you find yourself working with mostly?
I've been working with the elementary age group since I became a school psychologist. I really enjoy that age group.
And they present themselves with lots of energy, lots of curiosity, but as we hear in the news, there's also issues with bullying of small children. If there's someone out there who, how can they look for the signs of bullying, that your child's being bullied, perhaps at school or going to and from school, whether they're walking or taking the bus? How can someone sitting at home kind of get the hint that something might be wrong?
Well, as a parent, I think one of the first things you would notice is maybe a change in your child's behavior, not being a child who may have been outgoing now become more withdrawn, wanting to stay home more, stay in their room more, become more withdrawn and isolated. So that could be one sign of knowing that something is not going well with a student, and it could be a case of bullying.
Well, I remember back in the days, everybody's been through some sort of bullying, I'm sure, but maybe not quite the love of school the way they've had in the past. They don't want to go to school, or you see a lot of pretending that they're sick so that they don't have to go to school. It's not always about that test that they're trying to avoid. It might be that person in the hallway. So what can a parent or a family member do if they do suspect that their child is being bullied? Where to start?
Well, I think, first I would start with the child, and I would hope that the parent has a level of communication with the child, with the student, that they would have actually started telling the parent what's going on. But I think the best person is the child to start. What's going on? Is there something wrong? And if you feel that you're not getting the answers that make sense to you, then I would start contacting the school. The child's teacher is usually, I would say, the first step. Is there anything going on? Have you noticed anything? And there's lots of people in our schools to help. Number one, the child's teacher. We have guidance counselors, school psychologists, the building principal, building administrators, and so on. So I would start with those techniques first.
Well, it may be a parent's initial reaction that I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to make this go away. Kind of the protector of their child. But oftentimes I know that can cause difficulty. How should a parent react when they first talk to their child if they do hear that there's bullying?
Well, again, every scenario is so different. If it's a child that you if a child disclosed to you the name of the other student or child who's being the bully, and I don't like to call children bullied. Children who are displaying bullying behaviors. Okay, behaviors that are we call intimidating or just mean and cruel to each other. I would say they could start by talking to the parent of the other child if they are that level, that comfort level, if they know that parent. If they're not familiar with the family or the parent, again, I sometimes get in the school to be the mediator could be one way to help. And you know, there's a new law in New York State. It's called DASA, and it's the Dignity for All Students Act, and it's schools are mandated to explore and check into and look into each incidence or evidence of bullying that comes to their knowledge. So that's a new law.
I know that some of the service clubs that exist at the higher level, junior high, boy, am I dating myself, middle school
Right.
or high school, they have clubs of other students that foster anti-bullying campaigns within the schools themselves. And I think that's just a wonderful idea because sometimes there's nothing quite like peer pressure to make a student stop their bullying behavior. I know you have other irons in the fire, so to speak, beyond your everyday job. You were at one point in time on the Schenectady School Board.
Yes.
This was a voluntary position.
Yes.
What an enormous opportunity for someone, but it must have been also very enlightening, given the fact that you have worked within school systems in the past, and then you were on the school board. What is happening in schools today as far as funding is concerned, and what horrible decisions are school boards having to make?
Well, the funding issue is one of the, each day you look into, and the headlines of the newspaper, it's about the lack of funding, the inequity in funding, the lack of fairness of the way school districts are funded. And so most school districts are feeling the pain of not enough state funds to maintain the programs they have, not to create new programs, just to maintain the level of services and programs that they have.
So from what I understand, school districts have quite a list of mandated activities and reports that they have to generate.
Right.
And because they're mandated, those positions have to be funded.
Right.
So you may be taking money out of what is a necessary educational function, but perhaps not mandated, and moving that to a mandated program because the state makes it so. So when someone's out there and they say, my gosh, my taxes are so much, my school taxes continue to go up, you do agree with me that the money just isn't there anymore.
Right. The money, the portion of funds that typically come from the state aid has been decreasing for all school districts over the past few years.
So the burden has been placed on the taxpayer.
Right. And furthermore, as you know, you're aware, there's a tax cap. You cannot raise, school boards cannot raise the taxpayers' taxes for more than 2%. So the combination of not raising taxes more than 2%, the less state aid, has caused a significant hardship for many school districts. And there's a fear that some school districts will become insolvent because they cannot afford to maintain.
And I think we're going to see that within the next fiscal year from what I have seen out there in the state. Well, so you have schools that are cutting back their programs that are not mandated in order to feed their core missions and get the mandates done. So we have after-school activities that are cut, intercollegiate sports are cut. Other non-classroom type issues are being cut in order to keep the boat afloat.
Right.
But oftentimes, as a school psychologist, you probably recognize those programs are fundamental to the intellectual and mental health development of students.
Yes.
So what can families do if these programs are cut? How can they help support their students in the kind of extracurricular activities that may not be out there anymore?
Well, I think one of the first things that I would encourage all families, and not just families with students, but all citizens, is to contact your local legislators, your state assemblymen and your state senators, and also your U.S. senators and U.S. congressmen, because they're the ones who really control the funding to the district. So that's the first step. But as families, in terms of extracurricular activities, sometimes parents are unaware of how many free activities there are to keep their students motivated and interested in a lot of things. For example, I was speaking to a parent just a couple days ago who spent the entire day at the Schenectady Museum and had such a great time.
We've had the museum here, MySci as it's now
Right.
called, and they have wonderful activities both during school breaks,
Right.
after school activities, and then on the weekends. And if not free, you certainly can get a membership at a
Right.
significantly reduced price,
yes.
and then come back time and time again and enjoy yourself as much as you want. Something to do on snow days too. I know also that you have been on the board of the Schenectady Community Action Program. Could you talk about how they and your board membership on the Schenectady Youth Bureau, how you've been able to really underscore the need for community action and community programs for our youth?
Right. Well, as you know, Schenectady Community Action Program provides Head Start services to our most vulnerable students in the district, or 3 and 4 year olds, and they provide a variety of service. At this time of year, they do the tax services. It's free tax preparation. So it's a lot of programs that SCAP provides. I enjoy being on the board of SCAP because I see the value of the services and products that they provide for our community. And one of the things I really enjoy is just when the clients come back and become a part of the organization.
Oh, that's neat.
And I think that's great.
So free tax services are available through April 15th. You would just contact SCAP by either looking it up in the phone book or going online.
Right. Or that new phone program, 211, you can dial that and you can make an appointment directly through that.
Oh, that's
to
wonderful.
Get your taxes done.
That's terrific. And that's in the Schenectady area.
Right.
So
Yes.
anyone in the Schenectady area
Right.
who meets the specifications can do
Right.
so.
Yeah.
Now, you and I, we were talking before the shoot. We're both ex-Girl Scout people.
Yes, yes.
So the Girl Scouts are always another great way for women, especially,
Right.
seeing as we're talking about Women's History Month, to really find a community outside of school.
Right.
Whether they're outdoorsy or not, there's always something in the Girl Scouts for
Right,
all
yes,
of
you
us.
don't have to be the camp leader outside, but there's so many other ways that you can engage girls. If you have a skill at that, you're good at dance or singing or crafts. There's many ways you
I
can
think
become
web
involved.
design is a new
Yes,
patch.
yes,
and I'm
technology.
just-
Yes, we haven't even.
I'm floored I didn't get that patch back in the day because there was no web. But that's again showing my age. So I know that you have some other things coming up shortly that not all of our viewers may be able to access, but let's talk some more about it. You have something else coming up shortly. What's that?
Yes, I'm doing a parent workshop within the Troy School District next week, and that title of that particular workshop is Listening and Responding to Your Student. It is one in a series of workshops that I enjoy doing, and I find it very helpful to not just to myself, but to the parents who are involved. We learn from each other.
So it's an after-school kind of evening workshop. What's the typical type of stuff that you cover? I know it's quite a lengthy series that you participate in.
Well, I'll talk about the three that are most popular. And one I just mentioned, listening and responding to children. It's about really listening to your child and not just going, It's being able to do that. That understanding of saying, oh, so you're saying that you did, and reflecting their feelings back, so the child can really understand, because it boosts their self-esteem and so on when they realize that you're really paying attention to them. And
So teenagers do want us to hear what they have to say?
Yes, they do want to hear but they don't always want us to solve what they're trying to tell us. So sometimes they just want a listening ear and a reflection back. Yes, I know, I understand. Or you were feeling sad when, things like that. Sometimes as parents, we like to jump in and come up with a solution even before we fully hear what they are trying to say to us.
Yeah.
So we talk about ways to really listen and respond.
Yes, that protection thing. We're going to go protect our student.
Yes.
What are some? You said that was one of three.
Well, it's really an 8 series, but I'll just mention 2 more. The self-esteem workshop, how to boost the self-esteem in children, and that's a very popular one, because sometimes we forget that although they're little people, their feelings are just as real as ours, and we have to be mindful of the words, and not just words or body language or facial expressions. All of that goes into the way we respond to our children and improve the way they feel about themselves.
Do you find that these would be valuable for other close family members that help with the raising of the children aside from parents?
Yes, any guardian or any and siblings also, like older siblings. That's also important. And finally, I just mentioned one more workshop, which is how to talk to your child's teacher. That is a big one, and that many parents are very intimidated of going in and talking to their children's teachers. And as you know, we live in the capital district, or throughout the nation, we have many people migrated from other countries where your role and the teacher's role, it's very different, where teachers are not someone that is easily approachable, and so many people feel intimidated, and not just immigrants, but people, parents in general, feel intimidated about going to schools and advocating for their children, or just going in and talking during report card time. So sometimes parents are not there because it's not because they don't care about their children, it's just they don't know how to come in and start that level of conversation. So.
Well, that's terrific that you offer these programs, and they may be available at other school districts, so I would encourage those people who are out there to contact their local school district, ask if such programs exist, and if not, advocate for them, because they sound like it would be a wonderful way for the school community and the home community to really do what's best for our children.
Right.
That's terrific.
Yes.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you again.
I so appreciate having you here, Maxine. Maxine Brisport, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You've been watching the Science and Education segment here on Impact. I'm Barbara Brabetz. Thanks so much for watching.
Proctors, bringing the best in arts, education, and entertainment.